So hello, I am Avi, this is Jesse.
Hi.
You might be wondering, if you haven't been to one of these before, who are we and why are we here? We are here because there is a small group of us who maintain the sort of global infrastructure for the Awesome Foundation. And one of the things that we've found it useful to do at the beginning of summits is to give a little sort of data-driven update on where we're at as a community. And so we have some slides about that. We have some slides also about some of the infrastructure that exists that might prompt some conversations over the next day and a half about the website, the wiki, some tools like that. So should we jump in?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think just to be more specific. There's a peanut gallery over here. To be more specific, Avi and I, along with Emily and Alex.
Where'd Alex?
Alex.
Oh, there's Alex, yes.
Are board members of an actual 501c3 that exists called the Institute on Higher Awesome Studies. And so that is an actual nonprofit that helps to support the summits, that it owns the IP for the website, it runs the website and pays for all the hosting bills and does a few other things around the world. So there is an actual entity. We like to say that, or one of our former board members has said that that IHAS is like the nice suit that the Awesome Foundation puts on, and when it needs to like show off to people and show that we're like a real entity. But that's basically all it is. Sort of a thin layer.
And chapters have no formal relationship
Correct.
to the nonprofit.
Yeah,
so chapters are independent.
Yeah, we support Awesome Foundation works around the world, but we do not necessarily, do anything specifically with individual chapters.
But if you write an email in wanting to start a chapter, it's one of us who answers that email and sets you up on the website. So so that's kind of how that works.
Yes, it's the Institute on Higher Awesome Studies, otherwise known as IHAS.
So
I'll let you come over here and you can start.
A little hand waving first of all about where we've been since 2009. So the Awesome Foundation started in 2009 in Boston, a group of 10 people who just wanted to support some projects. The first project I think was a giant hammock.
Giant hammock in the middle of Boston Common.
And picked up pretty fast. So first few chapters in 2009, 10, 11. But really, started giving out, we're up to sort of 50, 60 grants a month by the mid-2010s. And stable, and then as the pandemic hit, starting to dip a little bit. You could ignore that last bit because the last month is always incomplete data. This is the number of active chapters over the years. So we actually peaked just before the pandemic. And haven't fully picked up again, but I think I would describe this as still pretty stable given the circumstances. We have found it useful over the years to look at the number of grants given by chapters as a indication of how long they've been around rather than length of time. This particular slide is skewed a bit because we have had one chapter that operated a little differently. That was Awesome Without Borders, was a project of a family foundation that gave one grant a week for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And wound down maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But the chapters that have really been around a long time, many of them are here today. San Francisco, Joel is here. Chicago is not here, but Alex was for many years involved in the Chicago chapter. I'm here from Ottawa. We don't have the Gloucester chapter. We have New York here with Jesse. We have Pittsburgh with Emily and Mike. Miami we don't have here. Washington we have here. Ann Arbor we have here. We don't have Sydney, Australia. We don't have Hawaii. Yerevan, Armenia. Albert's visa expired. He didn't want to apply for a new visa right now, so he's not here. But I find it interesting to look at this slide and see that our long-standing chapters, the gray ones are the ones that are not active at the moment, but our long-standing chapters are really stable, right? I mean, we have on this slide chapters that have been going a long time and are still going. If I skip to chapters that have done 50 to 100 grants, it starts to get a bit spotty. We've lost Alaska, we've lost a chapter in Brazil, Boulder, Oakland, the homelessness chapter, Sarnia, the vegan chapter. And then when I skip on to 30 to 50, each slide we go down, we have starting to be more defunct chapters than alive chapters. So it's interesting to talk about how that works. Some number of years ago, I think my theory was that if you made it to about 12 grants, you were going to make it. And now it feels like that number is a lot higher. So do what you wish with that. Here's chapters with between 12 and 30 grants. Most chapters never graduate from 12 to 30 grants, so that's interesting. We have continued to grow, so these are some new chapters that have come online in the last few years. I think 2025 was an especially good year. This is not the pace of chapter growth that we saw early on, and so I certainly want to have a conversation probably tomorrow morning about chapter growth and where the opportunities are. We've talked in the past about whether we promote into particular cities where we think there'd be chapters that could start. We have folks here interested in starting chapters. Jesse and I have also been talking about whether in cities like New York City you want to actually fork chapters out and have multiple chapters in the city. So this is something that some of us can talk about.
We also used to find used to think back in time, back to 2009, 2010, to this particular model was I think a lot more unique than it is now. There's a lot more micro giving. This is, if you think back in time, this was pre-Kickstarter, pre-Donors Choose, pre-GoFundMe, right? And so I believe we were getting a lot more press also because the notion of a small group of people just giving small amounts of money to do something creative and awesome was actually very unique and noteworthy into itself. And so anytime we would get press, especially national press, we would see an influx of chapters because somebody would read it, and inevitably, which we'll talk about a little bit more, the story is always, if you can find enough people in your community who want to make it a more awesome place, you have a chapter. And so we would immediately get people saying I just started a chapter, what do I do? We don't get as much of that, but we also don't actively seek out as much press. And so that's another thing that we can talk about as well.
Is there anyone here whose chapter started because of the New York Times article? Anybody know of? Or the BBC article?
About 10, yeah, these were 10, there's
there are chapters that can trace themselves back to, there was an NPR story, that these cause major bumps in the new chapters.
Yeah. So just as a...
Yeah. And just to note also here, we're seeing some defunct chapters coming back. So we've just seen Singapore come back after being gone for 3 years. Boston was gone for 4 years. They've just come back. Detroit, we had a chapter many years ago. It was a little unusual. It was set up through the Knight Foundation. But now I guess, somebody was trying to make Detroit happen, they said last night.
Right there.
Oh, yes. So potential here. One other piece of data that we tend to pull each year that I think illustrates the difference between some of our chapters is the grants to, grant applications to grants awarded numbers. And so Jesse was saying last night that they get 250 applications a month in New York City. So New York City's success rate, I think, was under 1%.
Yes.
But we have, so these are the chapters here today. So we have State College, your odds are pretty good in State College, 14% success rate on your applications. That checks out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that half of our applicants are resubmissions, that number's probably higher.
Okay. So certainly a thing to chat about. One other thing that I know there's been some talk about, Mike wanted to chat about this one, and we run this slide every summit, is what is the $2009,000 worth today? So it's in the, getting down to $600. Is this still the right amount of money to do a project? I don't know, but $1,000 is so entrenched in the brand. I just don't know if this is a thing that we can easily change. Alex?
No, it's literally just saying we had this conversation at the last summit.
Yeah. And then of course there are chapters. So this is U.S. dollars, right? They're Canadian chapters are doing $1,000 Canadian dollars, which is already considerably less than this.
Play money.
I mean,
Yeah.
as a new person to the organization, maybe a year and a half before, I don't feel like $1,000 is entrenched.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, doesn't feel entrenched.
yeah. So it's certainly a thing to talk about.
And our chapter often gives $1,500 because that's the equivalent of 15 years ago.
Yeah,
And we still promote it as $1,000, no strings attached.
yeah,
So the cliche is still with us.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
works.
yeah.